Okay, our next step in drawing our cityscape project is we need to have our sidewalk lines. So we're going to use our T-square to draw some straight lines, but not use it as a T-square this time. So I'm going to flip it over and use it on the back so it lays nice and flat on my paper. So the first step to drawing our sidewalk is we need to line up our middle mark with vanishing point 1 and draw a line. So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to keep my marker in my right hand. I'm going to take my left hand and stretch it out nice and wide and hold that T-square in place so it doesn't slide. I'm going to start at vanishing point 1, apply a little bit of pressure towards my T-square, and draw a line straight down to the middle mark. Again, I'm doing this in marker, but you would be doing this with a pencil. I'm going to do the same thing on the right side, but this time I'm going to go over to vanishing point 2. So I'm going to line up the middle mark, vanishing point 2, and draw a line. So that's our first line there. After that, we're going to draw the other side of this sidewalk. So from that center point here, I'm going to measure up 1.5 inches. So I am using this as a T-square now. So I'm going to position the T-square so that the 0 is in line with the dot, and I'm going to come up 1.5 inches and place another dot. Okay. That dot represents the inside of the sidewalk. All right. Now I'm going to draw the inside of the line of the sidewalk by going back to the vanishing point 1 and vanishing point 2. So I'm going to flip over my T-square, line up VP1, my new dot that I just created, and I'm going to draw a line from VP1 down to the dot. But I'm going to be a little tricky this time, and I'm going to continue to draw that line until it runs into the side of the sidewalk. This is going to help us create the first block of our sidewalk. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, lining it up with vanishing point 2. And stretch out my fingers so it doesn't slip. And draw all the way back. So now I have the edges of the sidewalk. At this point, I need to draw the second sidewalk. So this becomes the road, a sidewalk, and some grass for us. So I'm going to draw 2 lines on the left side that go back to vanishing point 1. I have to determine at this point how wide should my road be. So is this a good width for my road? Well, the answer to that would be no. That's pretty narrow. It's not much bigger than the existing sidewalk, and we know that the road would have to be considerably wider. So I'm going to move my T-square so I can widen my road. I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm going to go from vanishing point 1 down to the very bottom of the paper. Now, as objects get closer to us, we know that they appear to be larger. So this next sidewalk would be bigger than the other sidewalk I've already created. So I'm going to make this line, or this next line, so that the sidewalk here has a little bit more, a larger width than this one here. So right there, and draw my line. So now I have sidewalk, road, sidewalk, and a little triangle that we will use for grass. I have to do this on the same way on the other side. If I want these to match perfectly, I can measure. You can also do this by eye and just give it a good guess using your visual space as you're looking at it. So I'm going to measure to give us just an idea here. I'm going to start by putting the blue edge of my T-square along the edge of the small piece of paper. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to say, okay, this line hits at my ruler at approximately 1.5 inches. So I'm going to make myself a note, 1.5 inches. And the other line hits at 3.25. Okay? So I'm going to flip my T-square, line it up with the edge of the paper, and I'm going to come in to those 2 marks. So 1.5, and I put a dot, and 3.25, and I put a dot. Now those 2 dots I can take back to my vanishing point 2 to create the other sidewalk so that they are the same. I'm going to line this up and draw back. Do the same thing with the second dot, back to vanishing point 2. That. Perfect. Okay, so now I have the borders of the sidewalk, and now I need to start dividing the sidewalk up. So we're going to make a couple of notes on our paper for us so that we know exactly where we're working. Okay, the first note we're going to make is the approximate center of the page. So I'm going to take my hand, And I'm going to position it here at the bottom of the center of the sidewalk. And I'm going to go straight up, and I'm going to make a mark. That ends up being the approximate middle of the page. Everything that I do now on the left side of the page, I'm going to make a note. So for my sidewalk, so I'll put SW as my note, sidewalk on the left side has to go to the opposite vanishing point. So that's going to be VP2. And now my sidewalk on the right side of my page is going to go to the opposite vanishing point, which is vanishing point 1. So those are my notes to help me remember this. So as I move forward here, I'm going to start to divide the sidewalk on the left side first. My note tells me that I have to go to VP2. So I'm going to line up my T-square with vanishing point 2, and I'm going to look at the size of my sidewalk block. And I'm going to say right there, I'm going to divide this. Okay. And I'm going to look across the paper, and I don't have a sidewalk peeking out down over here yet, so I'm going to just move on. So I'm going to slide out my T-square, make sure it's lined up with vanishing point 2, check the size of my block, does it look approximately the same size, and draw across the sidewalk, skip the road, and across the sidewalk. Slide out, across the road, or across the sidewalk, skip the road, across the sidewalk. And I'm going to keep doing this as I move out my sidewalk. Now, because the small paper is the thing that's important, we do not need to worry about extending the sidewalk beyond that. So I'm going to take a moment right now, and I'm going to cross out this on the outside of the small paper on both sides. I don't need to add sidewalk markers out there. And I'm going to continue to draw my sidewalk on this side, making sure always that I'm back to lining up with vanishing point 2. And I'll get the little piece on this side. Now, as you go out, and this becomes further out away from you, your sidewalk blocks start to become even more diamond-like and flat. As they approach the horizon line, they will flatten out entirely. Okay. So that is correct there on the left side. Some people make a big mistake, and they do this, but they don't match up their vanishing point. So let me do this wrong on the right side. So I would line this up with my vanishing point, and I would draw across. And then what people do is they simply slide their T-square. And this may appear visually okay, but this is not accurate, because these lines are not traveling back to the vanishing point. And this is very, very, very easy to tell and notice from somebody who has experience looking at drawings in perspective. This is a huge part of your grade, is making sure you're using those vanishing points appropriately. So this is one of those areas, forgot the second one, that I will be looking for when I'm grading. And the major difference starts to happen the further you get away. Look where my T-square is right now. It is all the way up here. This line should be leveling out, and it's not. So visually, yes, it may look okay. However, it is not accurately drawn. So hope that was good, and you've figured out how to draw your sidewalks and divide up the sidewalk blocks. Thank you.